12:13 p.m. We're preparing a trap for D1. He's used to his computer behaving according to a particular set of rules. Frank is busy changing some of these. My understanding of computer programming is limited at best. I'm glad that Frank seems to know what he's doing. As Frank has explained to me, all the studio computers are part of a network. This means they can be controlled remotely, provided you have the appropriate administrator access. Naturally, my uncle has this. Frank has shown me how to open a special viewer so I can watch him manipulating the code on D1's computer in Wanneroo. Since this is all happening behind the scenes, D1 won't be aware of a thing. The net result is that I am now sitting, somewhat entranced, watching the cursor scroll and code being deleted, typed, mistyped, and corrected. I have Frank on Skype as well, and I can see him frowning as he types with 2 fingers. He's not on his usual porch, but in a studio very much like my own. Almost there, nephew. Check this out. Can you see the VBA code on the screen? Yes. In the viewer, I see the following. Sub print break 1. Print break 1 macro application templates. c:/users/jourjeff/appdata/roaming/profile gen/profile entries/1033/14/profileentries.pgb profile entries brackets door closed close brackets print where : equals entry door closed : equals true end sub. Of course, this is all meaningless to me. Notice the reference to door closed? Oh yes, there it is, near the end. Right, well, that prevents the printing process from happening if the door to the recording booth is open. It's a protection. I'm going to disable that protection just as I did in relation to the recording process. Watch. I hope you're taking notes. You'll probably have to do this instead of me one day. I'm thinking as if, but I say, sure. I see the cursor move over the second last line and change it so that it looks like this. Door closed : equals false. And that's it. I see him press save normal and exit. Done! Of course, I'll change it all back as soon as it's all over. What time are you going to Skype with D1? I'm calling him at 2 p.m. Excellent. I hope you've made those notes he's asked for. You have to be convincing. For God's sake, be a good liar for once in your life. I'll do my best, Frank. I've done a fair bit of work on those notes already. Not much to go now. Send them to him before you Skype. That way there'll be less chance of him smelling a rat. Will do. How's Justine? Okay, I think. She's gone to have another lie down. She seems to be suffering from shock. My conversation with her this morning was, I don't know, odd. She seemed distant, then suddenly normal, then distant again. Hardly surprising given what happened with Ian, not to mention seeing you dead. I'd say she was coping far better than most would. There'd be a fair bit of post-traumatic stress going on there. Give her a while. Will she consider medical treatment? I'm afraid to broach the subject. In that case, just give her space. Talk about it in a few days. And obviously it's too early to ask whether she would consider joining us in Rio when all is said and done. Indeed, she doesn't even know the details of our plans for Ian. At this stage, it's probably better that way. She knows about the D1 plan, though. Oh, you told her? She asked what was happening. I had to tell her the truth. How did she take it? She thought it was great. In fact, she wants to watch the whole thing unfold. Atta girl. Like you, she couldn't believe I'd let 2 copies of myself come into existence at the same time. Said there was no way 2 of us could stay under this roof. She's right, of course. You do realize that whichever way it goes, you won't be able to stay on in Melbourne afterwards, right? Yes, I know that, Frank. You'll have no choice but to start a new life. Besides, you really did die. I think that calls for a change, don't you? I suppose. Speaking of dying and the like, I'll need to have my heart checked out properly as soon as I get there. The nurse practitioner here mentioned that I need to have an ECG. Yes, I had one. Sounds like you've inherited a mechanical problem common in the Djurdjevic clan. If that's so, it can be fixed. As to hospitals, we won't bother with Swiss clinics. The printing seems to add dangerous levels of stress post-operatively. I didn't tell you, but I had a narrow escape after I came back from Europe. So we'll book you in somewhere here in Rio. There are good doctors everywhere. If you have the money, that is. And I have plenty. I pause for a while, then say, I realize I haven't known Justine all that long, Frank, but I'll be gutted if I have to leave her behind. You don't get to be my age without knowing how that feels. In fact, that first happened to me at the tender age of 15. I don't think I've ever recovered. Anyway, if Justine decides to stay in Melbourne, that'll be her choice. There'll be nothing you can do. Whichever way it goes, the next few days will be about empowerment, Dan. Imagine if our plan forced her to leave with you. That would be a terrible result. She'd resent both of us to the end of her days. No, she has to have the chance to do whatever she feels she has to do. And she can't do that in Melbourne unless Ian McCrae is out of the picture permanently. And no one is pointing a finger back at her. I know. Okay, I'd better finish those notes, Frank. One more thing before you go. I'm pretty sure Ian hasn't fired his last shot at you. So I've instructed a new law firm to take over Picklejig's affairs. I feel bad for Branca, but I didn't have any choice. She knows about it already. I've asked her to keep it from Ian for as long as she reasonably can, and she's agreed. I get the feeling McCrae will be threatening you within the next few days, either with a break-and-enter charge or an eviction notice. He'll want to bully you into moving, preferably out of town. If he tries this, of course, he won't know that his threats are meaningless, given my new solicitor's letter. Here, I'm sending you a copy now. And before I forget, have you changed the locks? The smithy's been and gone, half an hour ago. Ian can't let himself in any more. That's what I wanted to hear. Next time you're in Burke Street, drop a copy of the key to the new firm, okay? Their address is on the letter I'm sending you. Consider it done. Ah, the plans are coming together nicely. Keep me posted, nephew. And remember, don't fuck it up, I finish. He smiles, winks, and the connection breaks. A moment later, I open Outlook and see an email waiting. It's a CC'd message with an attachment which I open. Dear Ms. Markovich, please be informed that we are instructed to act for Mr. Fenyops Picklejig, care of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, in relation to his property affairs in Melbourne. Accordingly, we will be taking over from you as his solicitors in this regard. We look forward to liaising with you at your earliest convenience in relation to the transfer of the relevant paperwork. Mr. Picklejig's signed confirmatory note is attached. We are also specifically instructed to notify you that Mr. Dan Djurdjevic, formerly of Perth, Western Australia, has since 17 February 2014 been an invited guest of Mr. Picklejig at his house in Princes Hill, the residence. At this stage he has permission to stay there indefinitely. It is Mr. Picklejig's understanding that various threats have been levelled at Mr. Djurdjevic by your Ian McCrae. These threats appear to have been made on the basis that Mr. Djurdjevic does not have permission to be at the residence. We would like to confirm that at no stage has Mr. Djurdjevic been at that residence without Mr. Picklejig's full knowledge and consent. Most disturbingly, we are informed that last night Mr. McCrae visited the residence and attempted to assault Mr. Djurdjevic there. Mr. Picklejig would like it to be noted that he will not tolerate any further disturbance of his guest's peace. Accordingly, any further incursions onto the property by Mr. McCrae or anyone else from your firm will be prosecuted as trespass in both the civil and criminal courts. Yours sincerely, Page Turner, Managing Partner, Billings Solicitors. 1:12 p.m. I'm back working on D1's blasted notes. What a nuisance. Thankfully, I'm a fast writer, both in terms of composition and typing, as you've probably gathered from the speed at which this account has been written. In order to be convincing, I've had to provide excruciatingly minute details of my supposed life here. Many of them are real, like those relating to the house, the tram stops, the location of McMahon's, where my office is, or rather used to be, and who I'm working with, or at least used to work with. I've made particular note of Silvio, Branca, and even Justine. Then there are the complete fictions, how I'm rapidly becoming best friends with Ian, how we play basketball at the Docklands courts, where we have a standing arrangement to play at 6 p.m. every Thursday, unless it is cancelled or varied. I've told him where I eat, or rather used to eat, lunch in town, where I go grocery shopping, about Mrs. Chu, the bin days, passwords at work, you name it. Now I think I'm just about done. I pen a brief email and attach the notes in the form of a Word file. Hey D1, here you go, buddy. Read through this and we'll talk more when we Skype in about 45 minutes. I'm going upstairs for a bit, toilet and what have you. So I won't be around before then. I will, however, definitely catch you at 2. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll do my best to answer all of them. Well, my job is almost done. I think you're going to like it here. Speak to you soon, D2. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned the ring. That was deliberate. I pressed send. 1:24 p.m. My mobile is buzzing in my trouser pocket. It's Silvio. Hey, Silvio, how are you, buddy? No, it's me, dude. I'm borrowing Silvio's phone. Oh, hi, Zar. Listen, man, I'm seriously worried now. You wouldn't happen to know where my sister is. I went over and stayed at Silvio's mum's house last night because I was so pissed off with Just. But when I rang her at work, they said she'd called in sick. Problem is, mate, I'm here at home, and she isn't. Well, you can relax, buddy. She's with me. Thank Christ for that. Have you guys made up then? I think so. I'm not entirely sure yet. Your sister is a very complex creature. You're telling me. Hey, is this shit true? Are you really married? Afraid so, mate, but we are separated. I told Just that. I knew it. Just says you're a squatter. You don't even know this Picklejig guy. As it happens, she spent a great deal of time talking to Picklejig last night, both on FaceTime and then later on Skype on my computer. So that's all square. I've known Picklejig since I was very, very young. I knew it had to be a misunderstanding. I knew it. Okay. Whew. Man, that was a headache I didn't need. You realize that since you came on the scene, our lives have been like turned upside down. I kind of got that feeling, I say, laughing. Same here. We must be a volatile mix. Either that or trouble follows you around, as you said to Just. Yes, well, she may be right. Anyway, are we going to make that deadline for submitting the EP or not? I suddenly panic and look at my watch. As he says this, I'd completely forgotten about that, and a promise is a promise. Unless it's one I made to D1, of course. Don't worry about that, my friend, all in hand. I'll upload the files on SoundCloud by close of business Friday. I'll send Fungus, you, and the other guys a link. It'll be sweet. I'm saying this, but I don't really know how I'm going to fit in a good few hours of sound mixing in the next few days. Thankfully, Zar doesn't notice the slight hesitation in my voice. Cool. Hey, is Just faking the sicko then? Sadly, no. She's actually quite unwell. In fact, she's sleeping as we speak. Why? What's up? Women's stuff. It's not my place to say. But she'll be okay. She'll need your help, though. How's that? I need you to drive over here this afternoon. Pick Justine up and take her back to your place so that she can pack some clothes. I'm taking the executive decision that she should stay with me for a couple more days until she's better. I need both you and Silvio to stay with her the whole time that she's packing. I don't want either of you to leave her side for a minute. Got that? Sure. Bring her straight back here. I'm not working, so I have nothing better to do than look after her anyway. Reckon you can cope alone at home by yourself? Home alone, easy as Macaulay Culkin. And you know me, always heading out. I'll be fine. Tell you what, I'm so chuffed you guys are back together again. Me too, buddy. But let's just take it one step at a time from here. Why? You're not planning any more surprises, are you? No, but you never know what might be lurking round the corner. Zar laughs nervously. 1:55 p.m. Justine surprises me on the staircase. I didn't hear her coming in. Not starting without me, I hope? Certainly not. I was about to call you. You know, everything smells like a hospital, or bleach. Yes, that's a result of Frank's orders. Why is he being so anal about it? There's no body anymore. It's not like the police are going to come looking for a murder victim. The cleaning has to do with Plan 2, Ian McRae. We have yet to finalize Plan 1, so if you want to hold on a tick, we'll get that out the way first. We'll get to Plan 2 in due course. Okay. But I want to know what's going on, and you promised to be honest. Don't worry, I will be. How did you sleep? Like crap. She walks down the stairs and indicates the chair next to me. Is this where I sit? Yes, that's perfect. What about the camera? We'll be able to see D1, but he won't be able to see us. I'm not going to switch our camera on. Why? Oh, I get it. Clever. He'll see that you've been flipped, and he'll wonder why. Exactly. You're becoming quite crafty, aren't you? Belatedly. Uh-oh. He's online. I'm going to buzz him. You ready? Ready. Here goes. I press the call button, making sure that my own camera is disabled, and wait. We soon hear bop, beep, bop, boop, bop, and the long beeping dial tone. Blip. Hello, D2, are you there? I can see D1 sitting behind the computer screen. He looks like someone has dragged him through a rubbish dump. There are bags under his eyes. He's unshaven, his hair is a mess of semi-dried Billy Idol tufts, and he's rubbing his face compulsively. I look at Justine, and she looks at me, the familiar lines burrowed between her eyebrows. Hey, D1, yes, I'm here. I can't see you. No? Hang on. I pretend to do something, but I'm just clicking randomly on the screen. How's that? No, still nothing. Strange, how about this? More random clicking. No, nothing. D1 is still rubbing his face and finishes with his hands pulling down on his cheeks. This has the effect of dragging his eyelids down so that he looks like a ghoul. It doesn't help that the lighting of the studio already gives him a greenish tinge, like the Wicked Witch of the West. I just can't work it out. Things are great at my end, and I can see you just fine. And there's the little preview showing how I should appear to you. Ah, fuck it, we don't have the time. It doesn't matter anyway. All right then. Did you get my notes? I'm trying to sound as enthusiastic as I can. Yes, I did, he says, breathing in deeply. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but they are basically total shit. I don't know how you can expect me to go there and work out everything with such scant information. Oh, I'm sorry, I thought I'd done a good job. You thought? You know what thought did? That if it planted a feather, a fowl would grow, finishes D1. This was an old saying from our grade 6 teacher, Mr. Usman, or Ozzy, as we like to call him. By now, D1 is leaning over, his face in his hands. Justine looks at me again and makes the loopy sign with her finger near her temple. What extra details do you need? When's the next payday? Where do you keep your files in the office? Where do you keep your credit card? What is your PIN? Look, mate, the list is endless. If it's endless, how can I prepare it? D1 slams his hand on the counter abruptly. Fuck you! Then he points a finger at the screen. You know as well as I do that if the roles were reversed, I'd be preparing something a lot more complete than this. He picks up a printed version of my document and slams it on the desk. Then he goes back to leaning over with his face in his hands. Hey, listen, it isn't so bad. Trust me, I've given you everything you need to know. For example, your files are kept by your PA. He'll deliver each file and take it away on a case-by-case basis. I've got the credit card with an obvious clue as to the PIN waiting for you here on the kitchen table. Easy peasy. So the details I haven't mentioned are either ones that don't matter or ones that I've dealt with. You need to relax a bit. Everything is in hand, it'll be fine. Bullshit! D1 slams his hand onto the desk again. You need to calm down. What's up with you, man? You're looking tense. Damn right I'm tense. I got home to a text message from Teresa saying she's no longer interested in me. It seems she's been seeing another man all along, also a lawyer. She's moving to the Gold Coast to be with him. Apparently he's got a massive boat moored at his own private jetty next to his fucking mansion. I'm really sorry to hear it, dude. That's tough. Justine shakes her head and curls one corner of her lips. Then I get an email from that fucking Justin Case telling me I've been fired. Something about an article in Lawyers Weekly. He pauses to run his hands through his hair at the temples. And last but not least, I get here and I find that you still haven't sent me that fucking ring. How many times do I need to ask you, huh? How many? First, what do you care about Dixon's? You're leaving Perth, mate. You're coming here to a much better job. Don't worry about them. Second, I'll send you the ring right now. Right now? Right now. You better do that. Whenever you're ready. What the fuck, man? I'm ready already. Just send it. Do one thing properly in your life, for God's sake. Here it is. I take the ring out of my pocket and hold it up. Of course you can't see, but I'm holding it up as we speak. Anyway, I'm now pressing the record button. Of course I do no such thing. The recording will happen instantly, now that Frank has removed the door protection, but D1 doesn't know that. Now I'm going to the vocals booth where I'm going to leave it on the floor in the center of the room, okay? Dead center. Hold on a minute. I wink at Justine, then walk to the booth and put the ring down a bit further than the dead center so that it can't be reached from the door, even by a foot trying to scrape it back. I push the ring into the thick carpet, making it even harder to see. Anything to slow things down. Then I walk back. I check my watch as I do so. As with previous estimates, I note that it should take about 17 seconds for him to reach the room, and a further 5 to 7 seconds for him to grab a microphone stand if he wants to use one to wedge the door open. You back yet? All done. You should see it any moment now. As I say this, I get the following message. Recording profile 140312032014. Do you wish to print to a network location? Yes, no. I click yes and select Perth. I get this message. Printing profile 140312032014 to Perth port. Please wait. A new profile appears in the Perth directory folder. Printing finished. Press any key to continue. Okay, should be there now. Yes, I can see it in the directory. D1 drags himself wearily off the chair, then pauses to wag a finger at the screen. And don't even think about trying any funny business. I'm wedging the door of the booth open just in case you're planning on recording me to null or printing over me. He smiles wryly to himself. I just made a joke. Just in case. Then he walks off towards the booth. My heart starts pounding and I start timing using my watch. My heart rate matches the second hand on my watch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Frank has turned on the main studio's boundary microphone so that I can hear D1's footsteps, albeit faintly. He seems to grab a microphone stand at the 14-second mark. At the 22-second mark, I hear some shuffling, which sounds like him wedging the door open. My hands are trembling as I hover the mouse cursor over the profile. I count 3 seconds. I double-click. I get the same message I did a minute ago. Printing profile 140312032014 to Perth port. Please wait. A few seconds later, I get a second message. Printing finished. Press any key to continue. Justine and I wait for 30 seconds more. It seems like an eternity. During that time, neither the Skype connection nor the studio boundary microphone pick up the slightest sound. Justine is frowning at me the whole time and eventually raises her arms as if to ask, "What now?" I smile. Justine, my dear, judging by the deafening silence, we may now bid farewell to D1. He is, as my old neighbor Jim used to say, hustery. How come? I've just overwritten my former self, replacing him in that booth with a simple band of gold. All that remains is for me to call Frank to let him know that Plan 1 has worked. I'll do that quickly, then preparations for Plan 2 can start in earnest. I turn to Justine and say, "Does what we did bother you at all?" "No, should it?" "Well, some would say that we just murdered someone." "Who did we murder?" "D1. I don't know any D1. I only know of Dan Djurdjevic. As far as I'm concerned, he's right here, sitting next to me. All we've done is put things back to the way they should have been." I don't know if that's true, but rightly or wrongly, I seem to have reached a point where I just don't care. On one hand, I'm thinking that what we did to D1 isn't all that different to Frank erasing himself every time he travels. Each copy is as much Frank as the original. Surely I've only done that which my uncle does routinely. On the other hand, it's also clear that D1 and I had diverged greatly in the last few weeks. So greatly that we could hardly be regarded as the same person any longer. In that sense, I wasn't just erasing an image of myself, I was destroying a different individual, killing an identical twin, if you will. I suppose the latter should bother me. Strangely, however, it doesn't. My conscience seems quite prepared to accommodate simultaneously the inconsistent notions that D1 and I were the same person, yet that we were fundamentally, perhaps dangerously different from each other. Both offer cogent reasons for eliminating D1, yet they are blatantly contradictory. I'm wondering whether the answer to my conundrum is just this. At some deep subliminal level, there's a bit of sociopath in all of us. All I've done is plumbed that depth. Or maybe my indifference to D1's fate comes down to the simple truth that self-preservation trumps all.